So let's move to the solution for our guided exercise. Now, as a reminder, if you would try this on your own first, but if you do need some help, follow along with me in the video for the solution. So let's get started. Again, before we begin, we need to make sure that we run our lab startup script. So lab vmdisks ephemeral start. Once that's completed, we can move on to step 1. So step 1 is asking us to use the operator 1 finance account, and we're going to create a new public flavor named default with ephemeral with the same resources as default, but we're going to add a 5 gig ephemeral disk. So the first thing we need to do is source our operator 1 finance credentials. And then step 1.2, we're going to go ahead and create a new flavor. So the RAM, we're going to give it 2 gig. We're going to give it a root disk of 10. We're going to give it 5 gig of ephemeral storage. We're going to give it 2 virtual CPUs. We're going to mark it as public, and we're going to call it default with ephemeral. And we're going to go ahead and create that. You can also do the output in JSON like is in the example. And now we can see that our flavor has been created. So next, step 2. As the developer 1 user in the finance project, we're going to create an instance called Finance Server 4. So first we need to source our developer credentials. And we're going to create a new server instance. So OpenStack server create. And our flavor is going to be default with ephemeral, the one we just created. We're going to use the Rel 8 image. Our network is going to be Finance Network 1, and we're going to call this Finance Server 4. So our flavor is default with ephemeral. Image is going to be Rel 8. Our network is going to be Finance Network 1. And then we're going to call this Finance. We're going to give the wait option Server 4. All right, now we can see that our instance has been created. It's in an active status. So our next step, step 3, is asking us to verify that the ephemeral disk has been attached. So what we need to do is get the console URL for that instance, interact with it in a web browser, and then we're going to take a look and see if that ephemeral disk has been attached. So we're going to get our console for Finance Server 4. And let's go ahead and open this link. Okay, so now we can see that our server is booted. We're at the console, so we're going to log in with root and Red Hat. We're going to do an fdisk-l, and we should see an additional disk attached at VDB, which we do, and it's 5 gig in size. Now, step 3.4 asks us to verify that it's already been mounted by Cloud Init. So df-h, and we can see that dev VDB is already mounted at /mnt. Now, step 4 is having us interact with Ceph as the backend storage, and we're going to locate these individual files and also list out the volume pools and things like that. So step 4.1, we need to log into controller 0 as heated min. Step 4.2, we're going to list the volumes in the VMs pool. So we're going to use podman exec, and then we're going to be interacting with the Ceph monitor container. And we're going to be executing the RBD-P VMs. So -P is for pool, and then ls is for listing the pool. Now we can see inside of our VMs disk pool, we have two files. One is the root disk, and then the second is our ephemeral disk. Now step 5 is going to have us switch to another terminal and delete our Finance Server 4 instance, and then we're going to come back and rerun the RBD command to list our volume pools and see that those two files have disappeared. So step 5, let's go back and delete the Server 4 instance. And now that that instance is deleted, we're going to go back to our controller and rerun our RBD command. And now we can see that nothing has been returned back to us, so those disks have indeed been deleted. Now, step 7 is going to have us create another flavor called default with ephemeral 2. And we're going to create a new instance. And the difference in this one is we're using a 10 gig ephemeral disk. So let's go to our web console and log in as operator 1. And let's make sure we're using the finance project. So come up to your project menu in the upper right, and then we're going to click on finance. 7.2, we're going to go to admin, compute, and flavors. And then 7.3, we're going to click on create a flavor with the following details. So let's go to our admin menu at the top, and then compute, and then flavors. And now we're going to create a new flavor. We're going to call this default with ephemeral 2. So it's going to have 2 virtual CPUs, 2 gig of RAM. Our root disk and ephemeral disk are both going to be 10 gig. And then we'll click on create flavor. All right, so we can see our flavor has been created. Now we're going to log out of the web console from operator, and we're going to log back in as developer. All right, so we're logged in as developer. Let's make sure we're selecting finance as our project. Now we're going to go to compute and instances and create a new server instance based on the flavor we just created. So launch an instance. So we're going to use rel 8 as the image, and then the default with ephemeral 2 flavor, and the Finance Network 1 network, and Finance Server 5 as the name. The name is going to be Finance Server 5. Next, we're going to select our rel 8 image. So we're not going to create a new volume. We're going to use an existing one here. So we'll click on No for create new volume. And then we're going to select the rel 8 image to base this virtual machine on. All right, next we're going to select our flavor. And we're going to choose our flavor we just created with the 10 gig ephemeral disk. And then lastly, we're going to select our Finance Network 1 network. And then we're going to click Launch Instance because that satisfies our minimum criteria there. All right, now step 9, we're going to go ahead and rerun our RBD command to list out the volumes that were created for our new instance. And there they are. All right, so step 10, we're going to go ahead and delete our Finance Server 5 instance we just created. So we're going to select that and then click on the red button, delete instance. And then step 11, we're going to switch back to our terminal and verify that the disks have also been deleted. So let's click on activities and then switch back. Then run our RBD command again. And we can see that those instance disks have been successfully deleted. So that concludes the solution for this guided exercise. We'll see you in the next video.